6:58. Next item on the agenda was the minutes from the September 20th, 21 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the September 20th, 21 minutes?
Boone moves to approve the minutes from September 20th of 2021.
Second.
Motion by Boone and seconded to approve the September 20th, 2021 minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Visitors to be heard. No reports. We'll recess the city council meeting to call to order the cable TV committee.
Call to order the Beresford Television annual meeting. Roll call, please.
President Teresa Swagan,
Here.
Nathan Anderson,
Here.
Troy Bloom,
Here.
Troy Doden,
Here.
Will Wolke,
Here.
Art Schott,
Here.
and Mike Keelan.
All right, the agenda was sent out. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Boone moved to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Agenda has been motion to adopt the agenda and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, approval of the October 5th, 2020 minutes.
Doug moves to approve the cable TV annual meeting minutes from October 5th, 2020.
Boone second.
Motion's been made to approve the minutes from October 5th, 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report.
So in your council packet, there is 2020 cable TV annual report operating statement. In revenue, we brought in $459,000, 206. I can't say it. $259,206.28. And then in expenses, we had $474,723.58. Which our operating loss was $15,517.30. Our affiliate fees are our number one expense. And we have no personnel services, so there's no employee being paid out of the cable vision. Did we have some hardware that we purchased, some major hardware?
That was, I believe, in 2019 when we had our digital upgrade.
Okay. So it's kind of a tough year.
The only comment I would make on that is if we take out our depreciation expense, we really had about a break-even year, so $500. So Cablevision's a little bit different. We depreciate out assets, whereas on our city budget, it's cash out as an expenditure.
But the affiliate fees going up and up and up and up.
Continue to go up. Yes. Yeah. We'll touch a little bit on that in my report.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Doug so moves.
Boone second.
Got a motion and seconded to approve the treasurer's report. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Austin, general manager's report.
All right. So start subscriber counts. So just go through our tiers. Tier 1, basic cable. From 10/1/2020, we had 35 customers in that. 10/1/2021, we're at 39, so increased 4 customers. Tier 2, expanded basic, same time frame, we were at 318 in 2020, down to 292 in 2021 for a decrease of 26 customers. And then on the digital cable side, we were at 93 customers in 2020, down to 88 customers for a decrease of 5 customers. Rate increases, back in April, we increased our rates. Tier 1, we went from 35.25 up to 38.80. And Tier 2, we went from $70.75 to $79, and those are all driven by those rate increases programming. So you guys remember when we raised those, our local programming increased almost 18%. And then our national programming's increased about 8.5%, just over that. So that's driving all that, and they're continuing to increase. So we just negotiated our NCTC. We're part of that National Cable TV Television Cooperative. They negotiated our Disney, ESPN, and Fox contract, and I want to bring that one up. One of the reasons why I bring it up is they forced on us ACC network on our digital package. In return, we dropped ESPN Classic, and part of the reason was to help offset some of that programming cost that's gonna ESPN's gonna be increasing. So NCTC highly recommended we drop that. The ESPN Classic, we don't usually get a chance to just drop one channel out from a programmer. That's usually an all or nothing type deal. Again, just to try to keep the costs a little bit lower for the customers, chose to drop that ESPN Classic channel. So that's about it on that side of it. Just want to touch on what we've been doing, and our big project this year is our 5G spectrum conversion. And FCC came out in 2020, and they're trying to make some more room for the 5G wireless customers or companies, and they wanted to use the spectrum that we currently receive our satellite or our channels via satellite. So the government is actually paying us or paying the companies to provide us the equipment. So we could have went both ways, one way or the other. We could have said we'll buy it all ourselves, or we can just do a turnkey operation. We chose a turnkey operation, and so we've been receiving receivers, and Aaron's been working with the companies, the programmers. We've been converting all these to higher frequencies to get them away from where the FCC has allocated. It can now be 5G. And so that's our big project that we've been working on right now. We have 25 analog channels that have been moved already. 4 of the HDs, ESPN, ESPN2, Valley Sports, Big Ten Network, and then all of our digital channels have been moved at this point. So continue to receive more receivers and do more installations and cutovers for that. And then other big projects that we've been working on cable TV side, there's our surveillance systems that we've been installing. To date, we've installed 2 fully completed systems. We've got one more that's near completion. We just have a bad camera. We're waiting for that to come in, and we should be wrapped up with the 3rd one. And then we've got 3 additional systems to install that are on schedule, and potentially a 4th one if we can get cameras. Having some shipping delays due to COVID. So that's about, and then we've also added additional cameras to 2 existing systems. So just keep us busy with that. So
Cameras are on a container in the Pacific Ocean.
right. That's I'm sure where they're at.
I got a question. So,
Yep.
what does it cost each? What do we get charged per subscriber for the ESPN?
I would have to.
It's our highest costing channel, right?
Correct. Coming up in, let's say, a few years, they're going to be up over $11 a subscriber.
And for $5.99, you can get ESPN Plus per month and stream all your ESPN.
Correct. Yep. So I want to say it's
How they
around,
justify $11 when they're
Right.
selling it for $5 to streaming customers.
I know. Same thing. HBO's doing the same thing. We charge $20 for the customers, and they can go get every HBO channel that they want on demand for $15. So I feel they're just pushing themselves, pushing those customers to go directly to them. But I don't know. It's I don't know what to say. We're kind of at ESPN. You have to really have it. Everybody wants that channel, and so back to ESPN Classic, it was just like, well, here's a chance we can just eliminate one channel and try to save some money. It's not gonna do a whole lot, but it'll help out. So. And if you want, I can get those exact figures.
No, it's all right. I was just curious if it was more or less than the $5.99.
Oh yeah. I want to say they're over $8 right now per subscriber.
Because I want to say, doesn't Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN have a bundle for like $18 a month for streaming, something like that.
Yeah, I believe it's somewhere in that area.
It's not positive. Because I have ESPN, Plus. I don't know if you can watch normal ESPN.
Yes, you can.
Can there?
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, Austin? Awesome. Thank you. Next is election of officers. Are you gonna make a motion? Boone president.
No.
Looked right at me, so.
Boone makes a motion that Swagan remains president.
Substitute motion. Oh, yeah, second. What's that? Substitute motion by Boone. Name's I second it.
We're gonna vote on that one.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations for president?
Not a one.
Is the train coming down the track?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had to start discussion. So I just,
All in favor?
all in favor of myself remaining as president?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Vice president, no nominations for vice president.
Art, I nominate Art. Boone nominates Art.
Second.
Nomination been made and seconded for Art as vice president. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, and nomination for secretary,
Who's the existing secretary?
Kathy is.
I'll nominate Kathy Stussy.
Boone second that.
Alright, nomination has been made and seconded for Kathy Stussy to remain as secretary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mandy Lane is the current treasurer. Nomination,
Boone nominates Elaine Johnson.
Lane has been nominated as to remain treasurer.
You do all work in busy lanes.
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, election of officers.
Well, Austin, don't you feel loved?
Any other business? Motion to adjourn.
Those moves we adjourned cable TV annual meeting 2021.
Second.
We're adjourned.
I can't be treasurer because there's no ATM to check balance. Just throwing that out.
What's the term to restart the meeting? Is it? What's that? What's the term to restart the council meeting? Just reconvene as the city council. Thank you. Reconvene the city council meeting at 7:11. Next item, old business, consider second reading and adoption of ordinance 2021-07 zoning amendment for the city of Beresford.
Motion.
Shall make a motion, to consider second reading and adoption of ordinance 2021-07 zoning amendment for the city of Beresford, South Dakota.
Boone second.
Motion by Schott and seconded to consider second reading and adoption of ordinance 2021-07 zoning amendment for the city of Beresford. Do we have any further conversation, discussion?
We're gonna leave it out there. If there, we can't attach any type of, I don't wanna say conditional use, but any type of agreement or anything to a zoning, it's just a change to zoning.
That would be planning and zoning's job, I guess, because they're the ones that consider the conditional use permit, which they can't consider if you don't rezone it. Yeah, obviously you can make your wishes known to them, but they are an independent board.
I got a question. What happens if we bring them here and have them part of the discussion? And then they did say they're willing to make whatever Troy made a comment on.
I mean,
Seems improper.
yeah, I mean,
They can come to the meeting. That's
I
fine.
mean, certainly, the council can go to the, if you adopt the rezoning, there'll be a public hearing on the conditional use permit application. That goes just before the planning and zoning. The council members, if they had issues they felt needed to be addressed as a part of that, could do that. Jerry makes a recommendation to the planning and zoning as part of a conditional use permit of, it involved the plans and what the expectations are, would be part of Jerry's recommendation. And then planning and zoning can do.
Yeah, but let's go back. You mentioned Jerry make a recommendation. The part of the recommendation that Jerry make is based on the community and based on the project. If there's some concern about the council being present on the planning and zoning meeting to make a recommendation.
I mean, I think Jerry can put in there if the collective wishes of the council, obviously he can communicate that to planning and zoning.
Right.
And I think there's, if someone from the council feels strongly that goes to the public hearing that is held before planning and zoning, you can certainly say, here's the concerns that we believe you need to address as part of your conditional use.
But you'd be there as a private citizen, not as a representative of the council.
Right. But, I mean, they know you're a council member,
But not an official capacity at that
Right.
meeting.
Does Jerry send a recommendation to planning and zoning on all things?
any conditional use permit, yes.
So,
12 items we addressed.
what's that?
There's 12, I think 12 items that we addressed, 11 or 12, yeah. That's right in the ordinance, so we have to address all of those items.
Now, can the council help draft that recommendation? Or is that, I mean, so that's the zoning administrator, under the ordinance, the zoning administrator's job. Now, I think Jerry's smart enough to know if you guys have recommendations that you expect to be part of that, he probably would respect those as part of his recommendation.
And they can change any of those anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm just making a recommendation one way or another.
But as far as legally standing, as far as you see it, the roads have to be paved.
Yes.
And he's gotta abide by the square footage rule.
Yeah, we'd have to, Banner's looking at that, I think. Of the square footage? I thought you said they
Well,
were looking at the
we
road.
only got 40 sites out there, and 2,000 square foot is 80,000 square foot. So, you know, each of those rows, each of the units is about 25 to 30 feet wide, and it's 70 feet long, other than the really long ones. So we're over the 2,000.
You're at 30 by 70, be 2,100.
Yeah, except it includes 15 foot, so it's really 100 by 30.
Oh, because of the.
Yeah, you get half of the road on each side where I'm coming in and out.
And that would have to be part of the plans that would go through.
That's one way to look at it. I mean, if you took the total square footage and divided by the amount of sites, that's the other way.
And what about the fence? You made a comment, something about the fence?
There actually is a
conditional use. That would be part of the conditional use. If it was a planning and zoning one that included, yeah.
Yeah. It's not in the conditional use, but if you wanted it, you could.
They can
add it.
Yeah, I mean, they can put conditions on the conditional use that say, you need to do A, B, C, and D.
And then the reasonable time with the asphalt, because that will be up like that with the asphalt, and then shut down, and then you open up at a certain time of the year, so you'd have to schedule, you know, within a reasonable amount of time, but I'm not saying 2 years, but would expect it to be done right, because I trust Jeff and Bill on the base and the rock and the asphalt, so we'll give you a reasonable amount of time, but if it comes to the point where you're not doing it right, be prepared maybe to have some.
Well, and that recommendation will be based off of Geotech when they came out and collected their data.
Right.
So that report.
They do a boring for you.
They didn't do a boring, they did a compaction and deflection test. So that's already in the works. The report will come in. He was out last Wednesday, so
Every little bit helps, you know, re-securing people in town, 'cause I don't
And that
want
was
people to say,
that was Bill's suggestion to get that done. So.
From the geotech.
Bill's a good guy. I'm serious. Yeah, he's
See,
good, sure.
Bill, see. And it was Bill's recommendation of how to do the base with geotech's help, and then let it, both of them said let it sit all in. So then we'll do the hard surfacing next summer, when, just like they did in the city here, we'll do at the same time.
I know that you might not agree with everything, but I guess I'll just ask you, what are you gonna pave it?
We're gonna make it hard surface, yeah, just like it required.
Are you gonna put a fence up?
Well, yeah. You know,
That's a deal
it's pretty
breaker, are
low,
you gonna
it's
put a,
pretty low, yeah, we'll put a fence up.
if it's
Just
just, that's a
to
deal
prevent
breaker, are you
people
gonna put a privacy fence on the west side?
You wanted a privacy fence?
Well, some type of fence up
So
there.
you want a chain link fence, or, I don't want to do wood, but.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
Then you're gonna use the trees on the other side. You're gonna use the trees on the other side.
The
other
trees
couple
come through.
comments.
Do you have anything against doing a fence and then doing I'd rather have trees in there, to be honest. Do the blue spruces in there all along that side, just like we have on the others. So,
Well, the concern I had with a couple people the last week or two was they don't want people running in and out of Slumberland or Quality Park, running back and forth.
Well, we don't either, we want to control them so they come out our.
Right,
entrance.
right.
Yeah,
Within
we can
reason.
put in a fence.
Well, there's a lot of trucks there, there's kids, and, you know, there's probably some days a lot of semis. You don't see them too good, and they're flying by pretty quick in the morning. Now we got the
Yeah.
school buses over there too, they're gonna be flying around.
If the planning and zoning put it in a conditional use permit, assuming if this passes, would they outline what constitutes a hard surface road?
The hard surface road needs to be the same as the access road, needs to be the same as 13th.
Says 13th Street.
Same thickness or whatever?
Well, that doesn't get that specific.
That's a 6-inch thick.
That's actually a.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
It might be 3 or 4, whatever.
But that would be, that's
That could be
something
part of
that,
the conditional use permit.
if the planning and zoning put that in a conditional use, they could outline what constitutes a hard surface road, so that there's no, one person's definition is 3 inches, the next person will just seal coat gravel, or chip seal gravel or something.
Chip seal probably wouldn't hold up very well with these big trucks and campers coming through.
Bill's response to that question would be 99% of your roads are chip sealed in this town. So,
They're blacktop first. Chip seal is meant as a
chip
maintenance coat.
sealed. I brought that up and he said they're chip sealed. So it's whatever you guys want to do.
I got another question. I was pretty impressed with those people saying that they're moving in, they gave me their addresses, going for dinner, they're building houses, 2 or 3 of them. How many people call you up? You know, not exact number, but there's a few people that call you saying, hey, we're looking for a spot for 2 or 3 months or 4 months while we build a house. I was pretty impressed to hear that. There was that one lady, that one couple, Jensen's property bought 8 acres, and the other one, they talked to me, Pipeline talked to me. I'm pretty impressed that we can get people to stay for 3 or 4 months and they're gonna spend $500,000. I think that's pretty impressive. You know, a selling point, you know, one way anyways. But I think my main concern is, I don't wanna be lied to, I wanna be honest, and I wanna be fair to everybody, and I don't wanna vote something and come back 6 months and we voted on this, why didn't you check it out? I mean, we're gonna, my own opinion, I'll tell you what, if, I didn't have a lot of input from the mayor and a couple other people on how things are done, and Jerry and Tom, I'd be very skeptical even bringing this up, but I mean, I'm gonna make sure we're not lied to. I don't wanna have 20 meetings and come back and say, well, you said this, this, and this. I wanna be honest and fair and realistic, and I just wanna move on in a positive way if we can.
You know, folks, you're in competition with other towns. In the scope of this, I've had a couple phone calls on houses going to get an expansion on the campground. Canton's got 2 people alone looking at doing campgrounds up there. One of them told me, said, well, I don't have to do hard surface roads. I said, well, I'm gonna have to. And I said, how are you getting it through? I actually thought he was maybe over the city line in the county or something like that, but he wasn't. So I don't know what's going on, but you gotta realize you're in competition with others.
But my concern, Woody, is, don't get me wrong, I see the need to expand your campground right now. But in 2 years, are you gonna have a third full campground out there?
What do you care?
Well, because if you have that whole west half of it empty again, and nothing's happening out there, but now we've got a campground out there between where we could possibly put some housing.
So then I'll change it and put houses in there.
What's that?
So then we could change it and put houses in there at that time, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm getting too many phone calls beyond the pipeline. I mean, they call,
Right, but I
I guess
I
they're
would-
not following that.
well, I guess what I'm trying to get across is, I don't think the citizens of Beresford are gonna be happy if there's another, I don't wanna say another, but if you expand that and then it just sits empty after a year and a half and nobody's sitting out there. Nobody's camping out there. You follow where I'm headed? I mean, I get it now.
Yeah,
I do.
So I guess all I can do is use my experience in the past. When I started doing real estate here, we had empty rentals all over town. Evergreen had one whole building shut down. Sunview had 2 people out of 8 in there. Oakwood had 2 people out of 12. So Judy Jensen, back in that day, we took over and we rented them up. And we've been renting it up ever since, and everybody said, how are you getting it done? And I don't honestly know, it just happened. But we can get things rented. We have a history of doing it, we filled everything. I'll say people have hired us to do that, and we get them full. The campground's kind of evolved into this. I didn't see this coming, but we've got it full. So are we gonna continue to get it full? I think so. I think we have a record and we get it done. You know, our cost to camp there is really reasonable versus other campsites. I mean, really reasonable. If you go to KOA right now for a monthly rate, it's $850. If you go to Tower, it's $750. If you go to the Sioux Empire Fairground, which closes down here in October, that's $600 a month. And we're at, the new one will be at $550. The present one for 50 amp is $450. So that's what we get from everybody on feedback, is we're very reasonable price. The dailies, we're a little bit behind there. It's about $20 a night, but we're a little closer on that. We keep it closer because the dailies are a lot more work. So I really think we have a history of filling stuff. And I'd be foolish to let it sit there empty when I can cash flow $20,000 a month more. Why would I do that?
Right, but I think that's a concern.
Yeah, the one down at Akron opened up. Now they're a little different. They're on water and a few other things, but they're full and they charge a lot. So the town has to have everything. Okay, we have to have the high-end houses to build. We have to have the moderate. We got to have low-income housing, which we don't have. We have to have subsidized housing. We need to have a mobile home park, but we got to have a 5-acre site or bigger. And that does require paved roads and all that good stuff. This is just one avenue, one little arm of it, but we have to have it all. We got to have townhomes and everything, not just single-family houses.
I just got one question. I pulled into town in '91, and I was at that campground about 20 times, and it was packed. I mean, there was a lot of swimming in the pool. Everybody was in town. I never ever saw a problem with that street there. I mean, and it was a full house. When I visited way back in the early '90s.
Yeah, that's back when Roger and Helen.
Yeah, I mean, it was popping. There was people in and out. Cars came. I didn't see too much trouble, but I don't know if you're going to put a fence on the other end, and I don't think it's going to get any slower here because I did some research on Amazon. They spent $60 million on the building permit for outside, another 10 or 20 on the inside. And they did do some research on the building up in Sioux Falls. they're in the hundreds of millions on permits.
They just announced there's another subsidiary of Amazon to build another building.
Yeah, right, so I mean, labor and help's gonna be,
We get some.
yeah, we're gonna get, I don't think we're gonna get any smaller, I think it's.
You know, one of the
pretty
things
tight.
in our last council meeting, Elaine was, talked about sales tax revenue being up, and it ended up, I think we figured up about $11,000 for the 30 days. Some of that $11,000 is those people up there. It's not just the campground revenue sales tax, it's that they buy the local. They go to the grocery store and they buy food and they buy gas. I mean, granted, some of that's the pipeline fuel, which, you know, they're spending $25,000 a month on fuel, so. But each of those trucks you see running around there, those guys are saying they're spending about $175 a week on fuel, and that big thing. And so, sales tax revenue for a city is extremely easy to collect money. In other words, there's no expense to it. You guys get the revenue. It's not like a sewer or a water bill, we gotta put in infrastructure and all that. Sales tax is just pure profit.
Plus the beer and the wine and the food tax is higher.
I don't want them to boost too much, cause then
No,
they
but
have part
they're
of
eating
it
too.
called, but
To get a pizza or whatever, you charge food tax, I believe, right, Elaine? So we're making money there.
and if we do the daily and the weekly, like we pointed out before, there's an extra 1% municipal gross tax for those. We do get some. We had quite a bit earlier. You have an opportunity.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Mayor Anderson, can we do a roll call, please?
Yep, roll call. Who are the aye votes?
She'll just call, just have Kathy call the roll.
Bill Nolte,
Nay.
Troy Boone,
Aye.
Troy Doden,
Nay.
Art Schott,
Yes.
Teresa.
No.
3 nays and 2 ayes.
Measure does not pass.
You guys are screwing up bad.
Next item, new business, expansion commitment agreement with Lewis and Clark Regional Water System. Final.
Yeah, it's the final draft. I don't know how many of these we've seen, but eight of the members have signed off on this thing. We just want to get it, it has to be done by the 1st of January, so our cost is estimated today dollars at $3,944,000 for 509,000 additional gallons that we would get. Right now, we're just looking at a deposit of $28,307 in that agreement that will be paid next year. We do have that in our budget, so we would just like to authorize the mayor to go ahead and enter and sign that agreement.
Shall I make a
When
motion?
we are participants, so.
Shall I make a motion for expansion commitment agreement with Lewis and Clark Regional Water System to be signed as Jerry Simon stated for the city of Beresford, South Dakota?
Boone second.
Motion by Schott and seconded to approve the expansion commitment agreement with Lewis and Clark Regional Water System. Any further discussion?
What's our finance option on that $4 million that we're gonna have to pay over the course of?
We haven't
We
looked
wouldn't
at it.
start making, that obligation wouldn't come in until construction started,
Yeah, and then, I mean, if you look at that deal, construction could be 10 to 15 years out.
before it begins.
Mhm.
And then we would have a yearly obligation or all
You
at
probably have
once.
to do another bond issue.
We did a general obligation bond last time, we did that over 20 years. And by
Paid
then,
off.
they should be paid off by the time this one's done, you know,
Okay,
so.
cause that one obligation, that, I mean, we've been on Lewis and Clark for 7 or 8 years.
So 2006?
No, when we started receiving water. But I guess our bond was in before that, obviously we had to put the money up to start construction, right? So that was 06,
Before we got water.
so that bond was 06?
We could look at it, I have it right in front of me, Troy, do you know?
I can look real quick.
That's a 20-year bond?
Mhm.
It's 06, 08, 09, doesn't matter. That bond would be gone before the next one would start. Okay.
And my understanding, when Troy did that presentation, we would pay this as it was being built, right? It doesn't,
You probably have to
Most
bond
likely.
up front to cover the cost.
The whole works.
They aren't gonna give you any break for depositing the money early, is what you
No.
did say, so. But probably won't hear me able to save in the water fund over the next decade.
Mhm.
What's it called?
Go
Oh,
bond.
zero bond. Final maturity is 2026.
2026?
2026, yeah.
for about 26.
Well, actually, 2031, before they start construction, 2035.
That's
it.
One, two,
Cool line. The end of the substation, you know, and have our sewer expansion, whatever we do to that. There's never a break on this bond payments, is there?
It's like a car payment.
Our balance at the end of last year was 760,000, and 125,000 due this year.
What was our initial investment? Does it say that in there?
That was close to 3 million, wasn't it? I got all that stuff, so I just don't have it sitting in front of me. Sorry.
Just curious. About 3.
I'm not related to this, sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Potential funding for Christmas decorations. Last year you put that on there. I think we talked about that in January-ish, February. If the council supports moving forward, I'd like to have a meeting with the Parks Department to see what some options would be. If the council doesn't support it, then having a meeting isn't really of any value.
To what extent, I'm sorry.
The number,
Could have a motion and then just.
the number I think we throw was like around $10,000 to start it off and to put up some decorations in the park.
Okay, so you're talking more than just downtown. You want
Correct, this would be in the
expended.
park.
We've already spent our contingency money for the year.
Correct.
We took care of that at the last meeting.
Is that negotiable? Does that be 10,000?
That's just a number.
What time? What, do we got money laying anywhere? Don't we got something from the junkyard? Jeff was telling me we've been dumping more stuff there.
Well, that would be the rubble.
Is there any way we can
Solid
switch it over?
Yeah.
So
We've got like $2 million in the checking account too, right?
We use all of our contingency though?
With the bathrooms
Oh, with the bathrooms
coming
and
in
the
at
2,000.
1, yeah,
Grass.
and then
The grass.
it's
Didn't-
close.
Didn't we have something in the budget for that, or is that in this next budget?
So,
We didn't start talking about
We
it till
yeah,
after
till
last
after.
year's budget was done.
Oh,
and then the
We didn't have it
tailgate.
budgeted in by August of last year, so,
okay.
September, I should say.
But is it that big of a deal to go from the scrapyard?
You guys can do a supplement to the budget. I mean, we can take it out of cash on hand, out of the general fund, because we do have cash on hand, and I think Nathan said we have about $2 million in that account. So you could take and do a supplement to your budget. It's just an ordinance that we have to write up. And you just have 2 readings on it, just like you do a normal ordinance. So to increase that, and we could use that into somewhere in the park funds for lights or whatever it might be. So we've done that many times over the years.
We're doing pretty well. The golf course is almost $200,000 ahead of where we projected it at the end of this year. Not that they're gonna go down maybe a little bit here, but I think they're at 40-some thousand to the good. Because I think September was actually a positive month. And we budgeted to lose about 150. Liquor stores in the black. A lot of towns, just like, well, I don't think we talked about this, but a lot of towns, they do decoration, they do something in their parks to try to drive people, bring people into the town. So the idea was to put up some lights so that folks could drive through the park and have kind of like a small version of a.
Christmas tree lane,
Correct.
Santa Claus lane.
Correct.
I'm all for it.
You know, you could actually invite community members, if someone had a sleigh or some decorations that they wanted to,
Well,
let the city use.
That's what this meeting is for on the 13th, is to come up with ideas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But only if
Only
the council agrees that it's something we should
I agree with one more.
What are you anticipating, like, if we do 10,000 first year, what are you anticipating annually to maintain?
We talked about maybe getting some, seeing if there was businesses that would be willing to donate and put a sponsorship on it. But the idea is to get some seed money to start it off, so that we actually have some idea of what we can and can't do.
And if we don't start it, we'll never start.
Alright. I'm all
I'm
for it.
for it, I just
Yeah.
keep doing some budgeting.
I think it's a good idea.
You come there, can't resist but ask that question.
There's gonna be Wi-Fi down there. It'll be awesome.
Certain radio
Radio
station.
station, yeah.
You'll figure out how to.
Figure that out, okay. I think the church did that with their Sunday, your church, our
It's
Sunday.
still really nice.
Yeah.
Well, Bryant's always did that.
Alright, so
We'll get
those are the plans.
Fiesta Foods to sponsor.
So Jerry,
Fiesta Foods to sponsor
would
that.
we have to do a supplemental ordinance on a future meeting then?
Yeah, we just put something together, I mean,
So just kind of like,
I think we have our discussion. and
anyone
next
opposed to
meeting.
moving forward?
No, I'm not. Good job.
So then we have a meeting with Parks Committee and some of the department heads on the
Well, they're 13, 15 this month.
2021-22 Safety Management Program contract. Let's see where-
Yeah. Elaine, that's good out of several departments, all the
Right.
departments that participate, so.
The electric department pays a little bit more than the other departments just because they have more one-on-one training than the other departments do.
$12,050 this year. Do you, might be asking, how did that compare to last year? Is it up? I was gonna ask you that earlier today. They usually have a small increase every year, 2 to 3%, so.
And see if it was noted in there.
And that helps us a bunch on our workers' comp and all that kind of stuff to show that we have a program in place that I would say just about all auctioneer guys participate, electric guys, street guys all participate there. Some of the girls from City Hall will go down from time to time. If this has to do with them, so.
So we need a motion to approve the
Yep,
annual
the contract.
$12,050 safety management program contract.
Shall I make a motion for the 2021-22 Safety Management Program contract as Jerry Simon stated in the line. Working on paperwork. For the dollar.
It's 350 is the increase.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, for like 12,500.
On that spreadsheet, shows the
12,050.
difference from
12,000.
previous year.
12,050, right? That's cool. Motion by Shot and seconded to approve the 2021-2022 Safety Management Program contract. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Step pay increase for Allison McConnell from 1862 to 1914, 92.5% of base scale. Is there a motion to approve?
Shall I make a motion step pay increase for Allison O'Connor City Hall as the mayor stated.
To be effective on October 8th.
Effective on October 8th. Is that correct?
Golden second back.
Thank you.
Motion by Shot, seconded to approve step pay increase of Allison McConnell effective October 8th. We have 1914 per hour. No further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Greater Northwest Rail
Mr. Mayor,
Coalition.
I told Allison, and I was not bringing it up beforehand, but I had a USD shirt on last week. And I was harassed unmercifully by her when I came in with it. But I said I wouldn't influence the council because I knew that might mix her pay increase, so I hope she's listening.
We need to go into executive session.
No, I didn't want to influence, their decision's been made, I didn't want to influence it negatively for her, knowing that a former Charlie Coyote sits at this table.
I had my
Deep
finger.
blue.
So if you see her, you might want to tell her to shape up a little bit.
There's a lot of coyotes.
I know that, I know.
You better be careful.
I said, Gina was here, I said, Teresa, the mayor,
However, I
Troy.
think it's wearing on her because she did mention maybe attending the D-Days next year.
Anyway, I didn't want to bring that up, but influence your
Yeah.
decisions in a negative
Wearing
fashion.
blue, but she would show up.
Really? She should maybe think real hard about that if she wants her next step.
Look at the timing, right after D-Day.
My apologies.
detracting from this agenda.
We digress.
Next item, Greater Northwest Rail Coalition request.
So you guys each probably read through that pretty intensely, I'm sure. You guys saw kind of what I saw and everything else through there. They're just looking for some support to say that they would like to see maybe some more Amtrak that come up through the middle part of the United States. Right now, there's not a whole lot of, there's a big hole between North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, all the way out to the West Coast. So I think that's what they're trying to do, is just drop a little bit of support. I don't think it's going to cost us anything. Their ask is just a letter of support to the South Dakota's congressional delegation and governor expressing support for S-206, and you can read the rest of that. But that's what they want. So
Need a motion?
I would think if we want to offer the letter of support, we should. Yeah.
Okay, shall make a motion, Greater Northwest Rail Coalition request for letter of support to South Dakota congressional delegation and governor, is Jerry Simon stated.
Second. Motion by Jacques, seconded to authorize signing on to the Greater Northwest Rail Coalition request letter of support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Approved, no discussion. Motion, travel request, is there a motion for authorizing payment of the bills?
Doden moves that we pay the bills.
Boom, second that.
Motion by Doug and second to authorize payment of the bills, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Payments approved, no further business for the council, meeting adjourned.